I've been married for 7 years now, and over the last couple of them, I've noticed my wife slowly pulling away. She no longer shows interest in spending time with me like she used to, and any affection seems forced. Whenever I try to be close to her, she always says she's exhausted. Granted, she works as a nurse in a care home, so I thought her job was just taking a toll on her physically and emotionally. Lately, things have gotten worse. She picks fights over trivial matters, and somehow I always end up being the one blamed for starting them. She's distant, often avoids talking to me, and then claims that I'm the one not paying attention to her needs. The constant push and pull has left me confused and frustrated. She gave birth to our son earlier this year, in February, and was on maternity leave. When June came around, she was set to return to work, and that's when I started noticing something unsettling. She seemed unusually excited to go back, almost like she was too eager to leave home. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but a gut feeling was gnawing at me. Eventually, I confronted her about it. After a lot of hesitation, she admitted something that broke me. She told me that she had developed feelings for a coworker. While she hadn't acted on them yet, she was planning to, once she was back at work. She even hinted that if things worked out with him, she might have considered ending our marriage. That was like a punch to the gut. Hearing her say those words left me shattered. It felt like everything we had built together over the years was unraveling right before my eyes. What hurt even more was the way she explained her reasoning. She said she had lost patience with me. I had been dealing with some health issues earlier this year, and for a while, I wasn't able to be physically intimate. She claimed that during that time, her feelings started to shift. She didn't think I could make her happy anymore, and she believed that her coworker might be able to fill that void. I asked her why she was still holding on to our marriage if she felt this way. I was expecting some kind of reassurance, maybe that she still loved me deep down. But instead, she told me that it was because I'm a good man, a reliable provider for her and our child. Not once did she mention love. That stung more than I can explain. Despite everything, she said she wanted to work on our marriage, that she wasn't ready to give up entirely, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her reasons were more about convenience than love. It didn't feel like she was staying because she wanted us to be happy together, but because it was comfortable for her. I've started going to therapy, trying to process everything. At the same time, I've become hyper-aware of everything she says and does. Sometimes she'll talk to me, and it'll seem like things are improving, but I always catch this look on her face. This look of frustration or sadness that tells me things aren't as they seem. Recently, I found out something else that threw her into a complete emotional breakdown. It turns out that the coworker she was so interested in is already involved with someone else. He has a child with another woman, and apparently this news devastated her. She was angry, hurt, and disappointed, as if she had pinned her hopes on this person, only to find out it was all in vain. I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about all of this. On the one hand, I'm numb. On the other hand, I feel like I'm living in this state of limbo, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've even thought about giving her a false sense of security, letting her believe everything's fine so that I can gather the proof I need of her infidelity and leave when the time feels right. I don't know what's worse, staying in this broken marriage or leaving and starting over. She doesn't work overnight shifts, just 12-hour shifts from 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., and she left her old nursing job in January of last year. I remember that time clearly because she was home a lot before our son was born in February. But lately, unsettling thoughts have started creeping into my mind, doubts I never would have entertained before. I found myself questioning everything, even the paternity of my oldest child. It's ridiculous, I know, but the seed of doubt has been planted and now it's hard to ignore. These days, she only works weekends, Saturdays, and Sundays. The strange thing is that, like clockwork, as soon as 8:30 p.m. hits, she calls me while finishing up work. It feels almost too punctual, too rehearsed. Every time my phone rings at 8:30 on the dot, a knot tightens in my stomach. I started noticing patterns in her behavior, patterns I couldn't overlook. Recently, after dropping the kids at school, she returned home acting like the loving wife she used to be. She was being sweet, smiling, pretending everything was normal. But instead of feeling reassured, I felt my blood boil. The way she acted, so perfect, so put together, it felt like a facade. I could see right through it, and it only made me angrier. I didn't want to confront her, though. I couldn't bring myself to ask the questions that were gnawing at me. I wasn't ready for her lies or for the answers that might confirm what I feared. I stopped asking questions altogether. I just let her think I was oblivious, that I believed her carried. I gave her a false sense of security, playing my part like nothing was wrong. The silence became my refuge, a way to protect myself while I kept gathering the pieces I needed. The more distant I became, the more comfortable she got, believing she'd fooled me. She thought I was blind to her lies, but really, I was just waiting for the right moment. One day, while sitting at the dinner table, she casually mentioned her coworker, Luke. She didn't realize I already knew the name. Luke, the man she had feelings for, the man she'd fantasized about leaving me for. I kept my face blank, giving nothing away, as she talked. She didn't seem to notice my clenched fists under the table, or the way I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from exploding. It was like listening to a stranger. This wasn't the woman I had married, it was someone else, someone I didn't know anymore. I knew I had to do something, but I was numb, paralyzed by the realization that my marriage was already over, even if she hadn't said it outright. The thing is, it wasn't just Luke. She admitted she never thought marriage would require so many sacrifices. Sacrifices like distancing herself from her parents and sister. Sacrifices like living with someone who was struggling with their health like I had been. The arguments, the resentment, it was all building up inside her, and Luke had become her escape. Her relationship with her family had always been a sore spot. Her parents, both Jamaican, had never approved of our marriage. Her mother had once called the police on me, accusing me of abuse. It was a false claim, easily disproved. The damage was done. Her parents didn't like me because I wasn't British born, and they had wanted her to marry someone from the UK. Her father, always disrespectful in subtle ways, had crossed a line last year when I nearly lost control and confronted him. She had to pull me aside and remind me that he could use the situation to revoke my visa if I wasn't careful. Since then, things have been tense between us. We moved to a new property, trying to leave the drama behind, but it didn't fix what was broken. I realized my wife wasn't just unhappy. She was unstable, mentally spiraling in ways I couldn't even comprehend. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she spoke, in the way she carried herself. The woman I had married was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Now, I'm just waiting. I'm biding my time, gathering the proof I need to show her infidelity. I'm letting her think I'm still the oblivious, trusting husband, all while I prepare to leave. I have to stay strong for myself, for my sanity, and for our kids. The hardest part is pretending, smiling at her when inside I feel like I'm falling apart. But I'll get there. I'll get the proof, and when I do, I'll walk away with my head held high, knowing that I did everything I could. Until then, I'm holding on, one day at a time.